discovered an ancient structure near Jerusalem. She turned to the Bible to help explain what she found.
And she learned that this new discovery supports the biblical accounts of King David and his son Solomon.
Beneath the crumbling hills of Jerusalem, where centuries of dust veil the secrets of kings, something ancient has awakened. For generations, the world hunted for Solomon's lost tomb, a treasure of wisdom and wealth buried in legend. Now, one discovery may finally bridge the pages of Scripture and the stones beneath our feet. When King David's son, Solomon, rose to power as a teenager, the kingdom of Israel entered a golden age. Trade flourished, gold and cedar flowed into Jerusalem, and at the heart of it all stood the first temple, a 7-year marvel of stone and gold, its walls glimmering with divine fire. The Bible calls Solomon the wisest man who ever lived. Stories of his rulings spread across empires, none more famous than the judgment of 2 women claiming the same child. Solomon's wisdom revealed truth not through force, but through compassion, a justice that crowned him in legend. Even the Queen of Sheba traveled across deserts to test him, bringing caravans laden with gold, spices, and riddles. She left astonished, saying, "The half was not told me." But among all his wonders,
No, it is just the appetizer of the 4th season. We gotta continue.
one mystery endured. Where did this king rest when his light finally dimmed? For 1,000 years, seekers have scoured Jerusalem for Solomon's grave. Some said it lay beneath the Temple Mount. Others whispered of hidden chambers sealed with curses. Knights, scholars, and treasure hunters all came and left empty-handed. By the dawn of the 21st century, most experts had given up, until one woman refused to. Dr. Emily Carter, an archaeologist whose curiosity often led her where others feared to look, stumbled upon something extraordinary. Ancient Hebrew tax records that didn't match any known archive. Hidden among them was a note, payments directed to a site, outside the walls toward the city of David. A place omitted from royal maps, a place forgotten by time. Using ground-penetrating radar, Dr. Carter's team surveyed the rocky slopes of Silwan, the heart of old Jerusalem. For months they found nothing. Then a storm struck. When the rain subsided, the earth's shows shifted, revealing a shallow dip, almost invisible but unnatural. Beneath it, the radar flared to life, not random shapes, but tunnels. Man-made, precise. The team descended 13 meters underground. The walls were smooth, hand-carved, and deeper in they found something incredible. Fake tunnels designed to trap thieves, a labyrinth engineered not for protection, but secrecy. Hebrew inscriptions lined the stone, 7 marks, 7 lines, matching the 7 years Solomon spent building the temple. They were not decoration, they were directions. After weeks of clearing debris, the team reached a massive slab sealed into the bedrock. Its surface bore no royal name, only symbols of the sun, the lion, and a crown. Motifs tied to Solomon's reign. The air grew cold, the ground trembled faintly. As they began to lift the slab, the sound that escaped was not just stone breaking. It was as if the earth itself exhaled a secret it had guarded for 3,000 years. Behind the seal, darkness, no sound, no smell, just the presence of time itself. Inside lay carved corridors, remnants of cedar, and pottery fragments dating to the 10th century BC, the era of Solomon. Gold dust, shards of ivory, inscriptions referencing the builder of the house of Yahweh. But what stunned Dr. Carter most wasn't what was found. It was what was missing. There was no body, no coffin, just a hollow stone. Just a hollow stone platform, perfectly preserved, facing east, toward the rising sun. It was as if the king had been taken, not buried. Experts remain cautious. The structure may not be Solomon's tomb. But every stone, every marking, every symbol mirrors the timeline and architecture of his reign. The evidence is overwhelming, yet incomplete. What if Solomon's tomb was never meant to be found? What if his legacy wasn't buried beneath the earth, but encoded within it? Dr. Carter's findings, along with similar discoveries by Dr. Eilat Mazar decades earlier near the city of David, suggest a network of royal structures directly tied to the First Temple period, each one affirming that Solomon, the son of David, was no myth. He was real. His kingdom was real, and his wisdom immortal. From dust and scripture, the past has spoken again. Whether or not this chamber belongs to Solomon, its voice is unmistakable. A reminder that beneath every buried truth lies a promise waiting to rise. In the hills of Jerusalem, the stones remember. And sometimes, they remember too loudly to ignore. What Dr. Carter's team found that morning wasn't legend anymore. It was history, shining in the dark. Because this was real. Golden vessels stacked in corners, Hebrew inscriptions glinting as though freshly carved. The air carried the scent of thyme, resin, and ancient spices, sweet and earthy, like time itself had been sealed away.
At the far end, rising from the stone floor, stood a 7-branched menorah. Flawless, heavy, and unmistakably ancient. Every curve, every carving matched the descriptions of Solomon's first temple. But this wasn't a replica. This was original. Silk fragments hinted at trade with India. Ivory carvings traced connections to African kingdoms. Boxes of jewelry, rubies, emeralds, lapis, whispered of a global empire. One archaeologist muttered, "This makes the British Museum look like a thrift shop." Then a clay jar cracked open, releasing a puff of frankincense, saffron, and citrus. The scent was fresh, as if the chamber had been sealed just yesterday. But not everything fit neatly. Some carvings bore symbols no one recognized. A few artifacts looked stylistically newer, maybe even later than Solomon's reign. Could these treasures have belonged to Rehoboam, Solomon's son, or another ruler who buried his legacy beside the legend? Laser scanners traced every inch of the chamber. No artifact moved without documentation, because one mistake could erase what the desert had protected for nearly 3,000 years. The menorah alone could rewrite temple history. But this wasn't a tomb. Not yet. At their center, a star-shaped seal, sharp, geometric, unmistakable. It matched the legendary Mark of Solomon, said to grant command over spirits and wisdom from heaven itself. Around it, lines and spirals wove into patterns that looked less like art and more like mathematics. Ratios, angles, blueprints, geometry far beyond its century. One researcher whispered, "This isn't decoration. This is data." Even Dr. Carter joked, "We came looking for a tomb and found Solomon's calculus notebook." His felt like a prologue, the first chapter to something greater and far older. In the corner, stacked like unread messages, lay a set of clay tablets, dense with ancient Hebrew. Some described temple measurements word for word from the Book of 1 Kings, the same one used to sign decrees, trade pacts, and letters to Sheba herself. Some experts linked it to Hezekiah's era, 2 centuries later, yet the craftsmanship, the symbols, all pointed back to Solomon. But one truth remains. Despite all this, the inscriptions, the music, the golden seal, Solomon's body has never been found. No sarcophagus, no royal remains, only echoes, artifacts whispering his name. AI scans hint at deeper chambers under the bedrock, but Jerusalem's sacred ground forbids further digging. So for now, the mystery waits. What began as dust and stone may one day prove that faith and history aren't rivals. They're reflections of the same light. Because somewhere beneath Jerusalem, a king might still be waiting.